I wanted to do an introduction to the week, the AI week. Why are we doing it? What the purpose is? And this is a talk I've just given to the secondary students, and I actually thought it was worthwhile recording it so that the pupils lower down in the school can hear it, but also to parents as well, because I think the message, or I'm hoping the message, is really quite important. So I think it's worthwhile sharing it with as many people as possible. So why are we doing it? Why are we doing this AI week? So a few questions that I asked the secondary students, and what was quite interesting was the quite mixed response I got to all of these questions. This didn't surprise me at all. Some said they agreed, some said they disagreed, some said they weren't sure. So the questions were, so if ChatGPT writes an essay for you, is that cheating? And most put their hands up and said yes. One or two said no. And then they revised their answer and said, well, possibly yes. And then I asked if it's rewritten in their own words. So if they ask ChatGPT to write them an essay and then they literally rewrite it in their own words, is that still cheating? And again, it was probably mixed. Some said yes, some said no. And then I asked, how about if it writes out a plan, an essay plan, and you use that essay plan to write the essay? Is that cheating? You know, if ChatGPT tells you what to write and then you write it. And then I asked this, what about your teacher does exactly the same thing, which sometimes they do. If they gave you an essay plan and then you use that to write your essay. I think what came out of this initial discussion was it's actually quite hard to know where to draw the line now. There are some things that are obviously cheating. If you pretend someone or something else's work as your own, that's plagiarism. And we know that. If you try and deceive a teacher, whoever it is, and say, yes, I wrote this, and then it's obvious you didn't, then that's a form of cheating and a form of plagiarism. But if you get these AI tools to support your process, to give you ideas, to help you plan, to help you structure, even if some of the initial ideas aren't your own, the fact that you're using it as a source and you're writing from it and using it as a bit of a support, then in some respects you can probably say that isn't cheating, providing you actually explain at the end of the piece of work that you did use some AI when you were creating the final product. Another question I asked is this, and I said to the students, I don't know the answer to this, but it's a question that lots of people are asking across the world, not just educators, but in general, and indeed even the UK government has just requested what they're calling a call for evidence, where they're asking for educators all over the world to ask them to give their opinion on AI and how things are heading. And this question here, if ChatGPT can do so much of the work that you do in school, possibly better than you can, why are we still asking you to do it? And again, that's not a rhetorical question, that's a genuine question. Why is it that we're asking you to continue to do the things that we know when you leave school you're not going to be needing to do yourself, because ChatGPT or some other AI will be able to do them better than you? What does that therefore mean for education and schooling more generally? So this week, the AI week, it's giving us the opportunity to look at alternatives, to look at alternative ways of teaching and learning and alternative ways of being in school. So look, I use AI every day. Every single day, I'm using AI with my work, my personal professional work. So brainstorming, planning, expanding on ideas, editing, proofreading. It gets me to draft reports, strategy documents, job descriptions. It analyzes data for me. It does market research. All of these things I'm using it for all the time, every single day. So am I cheating? You know, if I'm using these tools every single day, am I cheating on my job? And one student said, well, providing you actually explain to people that you're using these tools and you're not, again, passing them off as your own, then actually no. And I agree with him. I think we're all going to start using them for doing a lot of the background work. When I write, I'm not asking ChatGPT to write, but I might ask it to give me 10 ideas and I might choose one of those ideas to write from. It might be an idea I hadn't thought of before, but it's still my own original work. For me, there are two reasons why it's not cheating. So look, planning and drafting, and then I rewrite. But as I said, as long as I acknowledge that it's a source that I'm using, ChatGPT or Google Bard or whatever it is, then I'm not using it to cheat. I'm using it as a reference. I'm using it as a source. And I think the students understood that. But I don't actually just use AI for my work. I've used it to plan out novels. I wrote a short story, or rather my 7-year-old son wrote a short story where him and his sister Emily were fighting dragons, using ChatGPT and Midjourney to illustrate the story. For my 16-year-old daughter, I wrote a complete history revision guide. I've never taught history before, but I wrote a history revision guide, and it was accurate, and she found it incredibly useful. I've used it to create short videos. I've used it to write code, computer Python code, and it's coded me games, and it's coded me like short exercises that I've used on students. It's done all of these really amazing things that would take me years to learn to write code with Python, and yet I can do it now in about 5 or 10 minutes. It's created new fictional worlds. I got it to create me this crazy new world religion just because I wanted to see how far I could push it, and it did a really astonishing job actually. And then what I've also done is I've got it to create sort of AI, almost like avatars of myself. So, this one, for example, where I'm a Viking, or this one is some kind of aging, slightly sad, pathetic, aging rock star. So, you can see how AI has just exploded, come on so fast, and we can't ignore it. We can't pretend that, things are not totally different now. Pandora's out of the box. So look, for me, AI is an assistant, it's a researcher, I bounce ideas off it. I kind of see AI as almost like my creative partner. This is my team, this is my kind of my AI or A team. I use ChatGPT mainly, ChatGPT 4 with the plugins and the web browsing. I'm using that all the time, every day. But I also use Bing Chat sometimes for a quick question. Google Bard can sometimes give me an alternative perspective. It's not as good as ChatGPT, but it's getting better. Midjourney to create images. And Gamma's a great app using to kind of create quick presentations, again using AI. So they're supporting me, they're making me more efficient, they allow me to get through so much more work. They give me more time, so I'm way more efficient now, and I'm just getting through more work because of all of the tools that I'm using. It's definitely making me more creative. I've never written so much as I've written in the last 6 months since ChatGPT arrived, because it's a real springboard. It's kind of opened up my eyes, and it's giving me some framework. And I think sometimes my brain can be a bit messy, as everybody's brains are messy, and it just can give me some order to get my thoughts in order so I can write much more clearly and much more precisely. So why are we doing this now? Why are we doing AI Week right now? Well, everybody knows, if you read the paper or read any of the media, it's just completely exploding. In the last sort of 6 to 8 months since ChatGPT was released in November, December last year, it's just exploded. Recent Goldman Sachs report, in the US alone, about 300 million jobs are going to be significantly impacted by AI in the next few years. And Goldman Sachs have estimated that it's going to change 2/3 of the world's jobs by as much as 50%. So as many as 50%, as many as 60, 65, 66% of all jobs across the world, at least half of those 2/3 of the jobs are going to be impacted. That's a significant number of jobs impacted in a significant way. And we're already seeing this. We're seeing designers losing their jobs. We're seeing photographers really worried about Midjourney and these other AI, text-to-image AIs just putting them out of business. Lawyers, legal aides, doctors, teachers. There's a recent report showed that more than 90% of college older sort of late students in their late teens saw ChatGPT more useful than their teacher. So early college age and late sixth form students are actually now finding ChatGPT more useful than even their own teacher. Accountants, financial planners, customer service, software journalists, marketers, insurance, travel agents, so even delivery drivers with these sort of AI autonomous vehicles that are coming around the corner. There are very few jobs that will be completely protected from this AI revolution. I'm not saying it's a good thing, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just happening. So questions I asked the students, which they definitely got them scratching their heads: what does it mean for careers? What does it mean for training? What does it mean for education? And what does it mean for you? What does it mean for them, the students in the school? Because they're going into a world which is radically different from the one that we grew up in, and it's something that we has to be really seriously considered. So this week, what we're doing? Well, we're doing things differently. We're trying out a slightly different way of being in school. There's not lessons as such. They can have different sessions throughout the day. sessions where they're working on passion projects, sessions where they're doing debating, all sorts of really fun things, but they're not going to be doing an hour of history followed by an hour of English followed by an hour of science. This is quite important, and I did quite a bit of training with the teachers over the last few weeks and got them really to think about this. This is very much about the teachers co-learning with the students. The teachers are seen as guides and supports, but they're also seen as learners. So we're kind of levelling the playing field a bit over the next week. She's still in charge, still in control, still making sure order and discipline is maintained. But in terms of their role as deliverers of knowledge, that role is being slightly looked at again over this week. It's about them learning and creating together. So the teachers and the students seeing it as very much a collaborative process. Teachers and TAs becoming guides and supports, but also the students becoming guides and supports as well. And AI. So what I likened it to is moving away from the teacher at the front delivering to lots and lots of students in one direction towards the student being in the middle and then being able to receive support from teachers, from experts, from AI, from their friends. So that it's almost as if we're inverting the learning model and the student then sits at the centre of that model. I've asked the students to think about the team around them, helping, encouraging, suggesting, supporting, challenging, whatever it is, that they see themselves very much at the middle of that process. They're going to run with passion projects this week. And what we mean is it's something that they really enjoy, something that they just like doing outside of school. Well, it may be inside of school, but more likely outside of school. And one of the Year 7 girls, I asked her, and she seemed a little bit unsure. And I said, no, there must be something. She said, food. I said, well, that's fantastic, because you could do a really interesting project around creating your own really cool restaurant and designing the menu and, you know, designing the experience for guests and designing the marketing campaign. And it's those sorts of things. It's ways of thinking about take an idea, take something you enjoy, and then just see what you can get from that. They're going to be learning about different AI tools, you know, both the positives and the negatives. We're not trying to sell AI this week, not at all. We're trying to open students' eyes to AI. They're also going to be debating some of the big issues around artificial intelligence. You know, what are some of the moral and ethical implications around ownership, around copywriting, around liberty, around personal space, around deep fakes. There's so much around AI at the moment that it's important that these kids are actually learning some of this and being able to debate it openly and honestly and frankly. They're also going to be listening to some experts. We've got some experts who are going to be dialing into the school 2 or 3 times this week and talking about their own experience leading in various academic and business areas with AI. They're going to be engaging in some project-based learning where they're going to be considering big questions around their passion project subjects. So, you know, example might be if they have a love of Disney movies, you know, how could they use AI and non-AI tools to design a graphic novel to illustrate the movies Frozen? That's one example. Or, you know, mine might be, how could I plan and design a new school that is totally different from anything that we've seen before? So it's thinking about a really big question that they have to ask their passion project subject. And then they're going to use tools to really explore and respond to those questions. So they'll be digging deeply in to those questions using AI and non-AI tools. And then they're going to consider how to present those findings. So it might be an ebook or a website. It might be a presentation, a debate, a short play, musical performance, a physical product. There's no right or wrong answer to this. This is really up to them to decide on what is the best way of them showing their interest and understanding and how they've explored their passion project subject through whatever means they wish to explore it through. Very much their choice. So a few things I've asked them to bear in mind, and I think as parents, those of you who are watching this, really great if you can kind of get involved and support too. The success of this week is very much down to them. You know, if they sit there and put zero effort in, they're not really going to get much of a result. They have a real opportunity here, not to sit and passively receive knowledge, but to really actively create some quite interesting new ideas. But there's no pressure and there's no expectation. We're not marking this work. We're not giving away prizes and awards. There's no competitive aspect. It's just an opportunity for them to learn some new stuff, to explore their passions, to consider the impact of AI on their life. So look, we asked them to enjoy, we asked them to have fun, and obviously we're going to be filming a lot of this. We'll be releasing a short documentary, a mini documentary at the end, so you'll be able to see the progress. I just think it's a really nice way to end the year, and just a nice way for them to move away into their holidays just with some fresh ideas that they can then explore over the summer holidays. Thanks very much.